In today's JavaScript lesson, you are going to learn how to create random numbers using the math object. So for reference, in case you forgot, strings and numbers are two different types of objects, and these objects have properties. For example, a string can have a length property which outputs how many characters are in that string. Objects also have actions that they can perform, which we call methods in JavaScript. For example, we can take a string and add the lowercase method, which will change all the characters to lowercase even if we type them in capital letters. In this lesson, however, we are going to focus on the math object. So let's talk about that for a second. With the math object, we can do all kinds of advanced mathematical calculations. For example, if we go to the MDN, we can see that there is a math property for the math object that lets us calculate the square root of a number, or get the number of pi, which we use to calculate the area of a circle. We can also see all the methods listed on the side here as well. The main method that we are going to be looking at is the Math.round method. So let's type this in and see what happens. I'll give this random number a variable as well so that we can write it to the document. Okay, so if I run the program, we can see a random floating point number between 0 and up to, but not including 1, is displayed. I'm going to hit F5 a few times, which is the keyboard shortcut for refresh, so you can see that every time we run a program, we do actually get a random number. But what if we wanted a whole number instead of, let's say, between 1 and 50? Well, what we could do is we could multiply our result by 50. If we run our program, we can see that we're getting a little bit closer to what we want. The problem is we still don't have our integer yet. Luckily, JavaScript also has a way for us to easily do this with the Math.floor method and the Math.ceil method. Math.floor will round the number to the lowest integer, and Math.ceil will round the number to the highest. So if we wanted to make sure that we hit a number between 1 and 50, we would use the Math.floor command just in case, so we don't get a 51 by accident. Now this might look a little bit complicated, but it's not too bad. Just try to follow along with me. In JavaScript, the code inside the innermost parenthesis happens first, then we work our way outwards. So if we look at this statement, the following happens. First, a random number between 0 and up to, but not including 1, is generated. Then that random number is multiplied by 50. Then the decimal is rounded down. The code might be complicated, but the main thing that is important is that you understand what is going on here. We also add the +1 at the end, so that if we do get a possible 50, since we are rounding down, we can only get a max of 49. So that's why we have the +1 just in case. If we run our program, we can see that we now found a solution that gives us a whole integer between 1 and 50. So using all this knowledge that you learned in this lecture, let's create a program that generates a random number between 1 and 16.